How you guys doing? Good? Good. Fantastic. You excited for this? Yeah, me too. I was driving on the way in this morning. I've actually had some interesting stuff happening the last couple of days, but just with an immense sense of gratitude. And one of the things I don't realise enough, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this more with you guys, is I don't nearly enough get to do what I do. I don't nearly enough get to do for you what we do for our clients on a very regular basis. And it's interesting because for me, I understand how valuable what we do is, but sometimes I'm not sure how much it gets to penetrate at a real cultural level. So today's one of those opportunities for me to actually have a conversation with you guys, but more importantly, impart some knowledge that's going to impact your life and help you perform at a higher level, not just in your role in the business, but also in your life as well. Because for me, you're here most of your life. And you may as well not only have fun doing it, but you may as well do it in a way that actually adds value to the rest of your life so that you actually become a better human being. Does that make sense? So there's kind of two ways I want to go about this today. The first way is I want to know from you guys, what would you love to get out of this conversation? If you could learn something today, if there's something you would really like to learn, there's something that's really important to you, that's holding you back in your life right now, or in your role right now that would improve your life, what would it be? I just want you to think about that for a second. Take a moment. Think of one thing. If you could work on that, life would get better. What would it be?
Self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage? Okay, interesting. What else? Who thought of self-sabotage? Okay, hands up nice and high. What is self-sabotage? Is anyone here not affected by self-sabotage? Who here is affected by self-sabotage? Who's not affected by self-sabotage? And who's not putting their hand up no matter what? Okay, who's unsure what self-sabotage actually is? No, that's a fair question. Who's unsure of what self-sabotage is? Okay, so self-sabotage is that behaviour that often happens automatically, that in most cases sabotage is what we're trying to do, but for the most part it happens unconsciously and we're not aware of where it comes from. But it often shows up in our lives in a way that prevents us from getting the things that we want. Who experiences self-sabotage on a fairly regular basis? Okay, all right, fantastic. What else? What else was your number one? Say again? Mentality. What do you mean when you say mentality? Mindset. So when you say mindset, what does that mean to you? Because that's a big one. Say, if I could just fix my mindset, I'm good. There's 30 departments into your psychology that you could work on. But if there's one specifically, because I want you to think about this consequentially, right? Because for me, one of the things I've identified is that the better the quality of the problems that we solve in our life, the better our lives become. But most of us spend most of our life solving small problems, right? Solving small issues. But if we can solve the bigger stuff, then big shifts happen. You solve small stuff, small shifts happen. If you're an athlete and you're training, okay, and you're looking for a big shift, you've got to be willing to go places where no one else is willing to go. Okay, so think about, dissect that a little bit. Ponder. Who else?
Facing fear.
Facing fear. Who gets scared on a regular basis? Show of hands. Who gets scared on a regular basis at work? Hands up. Okay, it's like this. It went from this to no, put your hand up. Wow. And who would agree that fear in some cases actually prevents you from doing some of the things that you want to do? Whether it be speaking up or setting a standard or doing something. Okay, great. Okay, so fear. What else?
I think it's regulation.
Regulation? Yeah, absolutely. Who actually finds it difficult not to take things personally? Because life's so funny that way, because everything does revolve around us. Do you know what I mean? If you didn't exist, your world wouldn't exist. And that's a big concept when you think about it. If you didn't exist, your entire world and the way you see it, your point of view, your worldview, it doesn't exist. That's a big concept, right? So, what else? Overwhelm? Oh, actually, before we move on to overwhelm, that's kind of linked to regulation. Who sometimes finds themselves not only taking things personally, but when you do that, you have emotions that are triggered, or you have a level of stress that is triggered that sometimes prevents you being able to think clearly to do the things that you need to in order to move forward. Okay, fantastic. All right, let's talk about that as well. You guys are giving me a fucking great menu. What else?
For me, certainty in decision making. So, not necessarily my own, but making sure that my own decision making is congruent with the decision making that yourself and Marie would kind of naturally make. So,
yep.
Kind of bridging the gap between what I think is right and what you guys would do in the same scenario that I was presented.
Who thinks they'd be able to do their job better if they had more quality information on a regular basis? I love this. Do you know what we call that? Information flow. Like, everybody wants information flow, but how do we do it in a way that is highly functional, but most importantly, high performance? Because I think one of the things that we don't realize when it comes to information is sometimes we hold on to information that we need to be passing along. Does this make sense? And when you think about this from your own perspective, we both play on both sides of the equation. How many times have you had information that you needed to pass on in order to get your job done at a much higher level? But also, how many times have you had information that came to you or didn't come to you that you needed in order to do your job better? Can you see how those two are intrinsically linked? Because sometimes we actually prevent each other from doing our jobs to the highest level because we don't pass information along, whether it be information on internal processes, information on a client status, just information in general, like a report. Does this make sense? So we've got to understand, like, in order for us to do our jobs, this is a good one. We've got to learn and understand and put a value on the flow of information and how information flows. And what do you think is the goal of the flow of information? You want it efficient, but what else? Clear. You want it organised. You want it structured. And you want it specific. Does this make sense? Organised, structured, and specific. So one of the things we've got to look at when it comes to information flow is not only are we making sure that are we a conduit or are we an obstacle? We've got to look at how we're flowing that information in the different directions in the most efficient and effective way. Now, if you could do that at a much better level, who thinks that you could increase not only the performance of your role, but everyone around you as well? Okay, fantastic. But I guess what I'm curious to know is if, we look at self-sabotage, fear, what does that say? Regulation. Glad you guys are paying attention. And information flow, who would be able to perform their role at a much higher level? Okay. First of all, let's talk to one other thing that I think would help you guys all perform at a much higher level, which is a level of appreciation for what you do. I don't think you guys realize. See, here's a challenge that I have. Like, I have the challenge of trying to show appreciation to like 38 different people in this organization, and that's a challenge. And sometimes I don't necessarily get to do it at the highest level or in the greatest level of frequency that I do. But who here appreciates being appreciated, right? Okay. The beautiful thing about today is it gives me the opportunity to bring all of you together at once and tell you how fucking immensely grateful I am for what you do. Like, honestly, I can't do what I do if not for you. I don't think each and every single one of you realize just how fucking important your role is in this organization. We're not here as an organization just here to make money. We're not selling widgets, right? What do we do? Change lives. Okay, we say this, right? But how often do you say something on such a frequent basis that you don't actually realize the impact of what you do? Who's actually seen coalface in an emotional way someone whose life has been dramatically affected as a result of what we do? Who's seen that? Okay. Who hasn't seen that at the coalface? Hands up nice and high. All right. We got to get you guys in some different seats when it comes to some of the events. Because it's not until you actually get to see what it is that we do that you realise how important the work is that we're putting out there. Like, we, on a regular basis, as most of you guys know, Tracy will be able to tell you this, we've had, more than a dozen different letters, and probably more, probably 2 to 3 times that, from people whose lives that we've saved as a result of them watching a fucking video, okay, or going to an event, or becoming a part of a community. And so for me, I think it's important for you to realise I don't take what I do lightly, but I also understand the importance of what I do, and I only want to work with the absolute best fucking human beings on the planet, and that's why you're here. Because I actually think you're the best fucking human beings on the planet to do this job. And I don't often enough get the opportunity to sit down with you one-on-one and tell you just how fucking grateful I am for that. And I apologise for that, but I want you to know, you guys are fucking everything to me. Without you, the rest of the stuff doesn't happen. The lives don't get saved, the lives don't get changed. I think you guys should know by now, I'm not doing this for the money. Have a fucking look at me. I haven't got the big bling. I don't roll that way. I'm doing this because I'm here to change the world, right? That's honestly what I believe in the deepest part of my core. I'm here to fucking change the world. But in order for me to do that, I need the support of some incredible people around me. And I'm not just talking normal people. Like, in order to do something incredible, and who would agree what we do is incredible, right? Do you know what is required in order to do something incredible at a large scale? Incredible people. This all happens because of you. This doesn't happen in independence of you. It happens because of you. Does this make sense? We're all a part of this. We're all together. And the more we can do this better, this better, this better, this better, the more lives we can actually change, which is why we actually came together in the first place. Not necessarily at a massive global level. I'm not going to assume that every single one of you are here because you actually want to change the world. But I'm going to assume on some level, for most of you, if not all of you, you're here because on some level you know you're doing something good. Who would agree with that statement? Okay. So who would like to do good more? Yeah? All right. So if we look at self-sabotage, fear, regulation, and information flow, out of all of those, which one would you say is the most important? If you think self-sabotage if we could nail self-sabotage right now, who thinks that would be fuck? If I could do that, that'd be huge. If I had to choose one of those, I'd choose that one. Who would choose self-sabotage? Okay. Who would choose fear, overcoming fear? You know what? I should have probably counted. Let's go back. I was like, yeah, that many. All right. Self-sabotage. One. Oh, fuck. That changed. That vote just changed. Okay, self-sabotage. All right, let's talk about self-sabotage. First of all, what is self-sabotage? That inner conflict? Self-sabotage in most cases is what you'd call a tangled hierarchy, where you've got two values that are in competition with each other, okay? And the value that often will win out will be the one that is most destructive, or you'll have the most destructive relationship with it. Now, who's ever had, or who's ever seen, who actually could give me an actual example of a situation where they're self-sabotage and they're willing to share it? All right, Maddie, oh, that was fucking easy.
Yeah, the reason I pointed it out yesterday, or 10 days ago, I went to a sugar place, had dessert, and I was like, I'm not eating sugar until July. And last night, I was like, after dinner, I was like, what's some sugar? And I looked at my phone, I saw the Uber Eats app, and I ordered some churros. And I beat myself up. I'm like, I told myself I wouldn't do it, and I did it. And I was like, why? Like, why could I not hold my word to myself?
Yeah, right. And why do you think it is?
I just love sugar.
Who felt the passion in that statement? And why were you going sugar-free?
To be healthier.
To be healthier?
Yeah, to have more energy, to stay not sick.
And how important is it to be healthy for you?
It is very important.
Who noticed a massive pause, a deep breath, and then yeah, it is very important, versus when he talked about sugar, it was, I love sugar. You see, there you have the perfect example of how self-sabotage takes place. You know, he has a value on sugar which is very high, okay? But he also has a value on health, but it's not as high, okay? And until there's a shift in value, and what is a value, by the way? It's mathematical in nature, psychological in practice, but often material in its experience. A value is whereby you place a level of a weighting of importance towards a particular something. So let's say you value honesty. Okay, if you put it as your highest value, you're someone who puts a massive amount of weight towards the value of being open and honest. If you value family, you're someone who puts a massive amount of weight on family in terms of a volume of intention, volume of importance. Does this make sense? Because when you look at hierarchy of values, it is based on volume. It's the volume of importance that thing has to you that determines where it actually falls on the hierarchy. Who understands what I just said, right? And so what we've got to understand is we've got to become aware of where our volumes are. So your goal, if you want to understand motivation in behavior, you're on the perfect thing to solve. Because motivation and behavior, or understanding how to motivate yourself, purely comes down to understanding what's important to you. And when you understand what's important to you, or when you know what's important to you, you will often do it. Okay, having sugar was important to you. Okay, do you have sugar on a frequent basis?
Yes.
And so in that case, you will behave on a very frequent, autonomous, in some cases unconscious way in order to move towards sugar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So who would like to, okay, so step one, if we're looking at a self-sabotage, what is the first thing we need to do from a practical perspective in order to start working on it? We need consciousness, right? We need a high level of consciousness. Everything starts here. Okay, but what do we need to become conscious of?
Where our volumes are going?
No, Firstly, we need to be conscious of actually what our behaviours are, right? Because our behaviours are going to be the things that speak the most truth. You know, people can say, I'm an honest person, but if they keep telling you little white lies, what are they telling you? They are saying that they're someone who is honest, but they keep showing you that they're someone that isn't. Does this make sense? So what we've got to look at first and foremost when it comes to understanding like the removal of self-sabotage starts with a level of awareness. Firstly, around the behaviours where we're sabotaging and the identification of the values that are in conflict. Because once you become conscious of the values that are in conflict, now you've actually got something to work with. Because we look at the behaviours, that gives us an insight then into the actual values. And now all we need to do with the values is reassociate new volumes of importance. It's like when you're changing any mathematical equation, when you move numbers around, you have to move values around, okay, or the volume of the values around, because ultimately it's just binary, it's zeros and ones, and multiples of that. Everything is just zeros and ones, right? So when you understand, all you're doing in order to change a behaviour is becoming conscious of the behaviours that are already present, conscious of the thing that is driving those behaviours, which might be, in some cases, family. It might be money. It might be the desire for significance. Whatever it is, right? I'm not here to judge. I'm here to accept you for who you are and show you how to use who you are to become better. The challenge for most people when it comes to motivation, they don't know what these things are. And if you don't know what's important to you, you don't know how to assign values to the things that you're doing that show you that the things that you're doing are actually giving you the things that you want. Does this make sense? You know, one of the reasons when we work with our K2s, we get them very clear on their purpose first, like really ultra clear on their purpose. And it's their reason for existence, right? It's the thing that never changes. Then the second thing we do is we get them clear on their mission. What are they trying to do in the next 10 years? What are they here to do? Big, bold, brash. You've got 10 years, you could do anything, what would it be? But then we break it down into priorities for them. Okay, these are the things that we focus on a 12-monthly basis. But we also need to prioritize those priorities, okay, and put a level of weighting and volume and value on all of those priorities to create a hierarchy of priorities so we know what's important. And then we break them down into quarterly tops. Okay, and those quarterly tops are the things that are now in focus. They're now the things that have the highest level of value placed upon them. But we have to break them down even further on a weekly basis into goals. Does this make sense? And then into a daily basis into what? Tasks. But the reason that we start up the top with our K2s around purpose is because we have to connect them to something greater than just making money. Greater than being told, you're a good boy, thank you for doing that. Something so deep within that when they look at the tasks that they have to do and they go, I'm not sure I'm motivated, there has to be a neurological connection between the physical action they're about to take, okay, and why they're doing what they're doing. The reason most people self-sabotage and they're not motivated to do the things they want is because there isn't a level of importance around doing that thing. But when you see a relationship that exists between the thing that you need to do and the thing that is sugar, actually what you want, and you start connecting those two together, the probability of changing your behaviour changes dramatically. Now, one of the things that we've done with K2s as well is we do what's called the Fortune 500 list, because you need to understand what we're talking about here, this values-associated motivation, it's all in neurology. Like it literally is nothing more than a combination of neurons that are connected in a specific way. That's what right now, your whole motivational platform, your whole motivational network looks like this, basically, right? And so what our goal is to create new connections within the brain so that the motivational behaviors become autonomous behaviors that happen automatically versus behaviors where we get up and we go, oh, fuck, I need to motivate myself today. If you could solve that problem, who would be like, that'd be fucking just gold. That'd be gold. Okay, so here's where the hard work comes in. Because I know what you guys want. Yeah, just give me a fucking magic pill, K-Man. Is there like just 3 things I can do in the next 30 seconds? That's just not how it works. When you look at high performance, like pure high performance, it has a level of consistency to it because it's just how people become accustomed and conditioned to operate. And the way that they become accustomed and conditioned to operating is by developing a specific neurology around this stuff. And it's not until you change the neurology, which in some cases can take a bit of time, that you actually change the autonomous way that your physical being shows up and behaves. And the way that we do that is by stacking values towards motivations. So Let me give you a perfect example. Who's got something that they want to do, but they're just not quite motivated enough to do it just yet? Tracy?
Lose weight.
You want to lose weight? Okay. It's not a high value for you right now?
Obviously it's not, but it is.
Yeah, obviously it's not.
Every Monday morning when I start, then it isn't
By Tuesday morning. Okay, so it's not really up there very high. It's not being demonstrated as a behaviour that it's real value, but it's a social value. It's something that everyone keeps telling me I should lose weight, or my partner Trav keeps telling me, just me. I just keep telling me that I want to lose weight because for me that's how I'm going to feel better. Okay, what is something that would be easy to say is of value to you that you demonstrate through your behaviours? That you spend a lot of time doing, thinking about. Yeah, working. For those of you who don't know, Tracy is a workaholic. No, she's not. But who's actually been exposed to Tracy enough to know that she fucking loves what she does? Look around the room, Tracy. Look around the room. You deserve this. Tracy fucking loves to work. She's like me, she's like Marie, she's like many of you in here who were just like, I fucking love this shit. You know, I'd do it regardless. It's just, I feel grateful I'm getting paid and I can do it with cool people. Right? So you love to work. Work is a high value. Health is not so much. So what would be 10 major benefits of becoming healthier that would allow you to work and be either better at work, perform better at work, work more, have more work, be able to travel more for work?
just feel better, I suppose. I know that if I lose weight and I'm healthier,
You're going to feel better?
I'll sleep
What will be the benefit of that? Will you have more energy?
Yeah.
What else?
Sleep better.
You'll sleep better? What else?
Work better.
Work better? What else? Work on what specifically better? Where would your work performance increase?
Just being more efficient.
More efficient? What else? What other benefits would you get?
You're doing the sales matrix on me, haven't
No, I'm doing a values matrix on you, actually. What I'm doing is what's called stacking. I'm stacking neurons. What I'm trying to do right now is keep connecting neuron to neuron to neuron to neuron to neuron to neuron to neuron. What's the benefit of that? 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 Stack, 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 stack. You stack the neurons. It's a computer. You are fucking entering digits into a computer, and all of a sudden you start forming a new neurology. Now you need to if you activate that neurology with some physiology, because your physiology has huge impacts at a neurological level, not just in terms of the chemistry, but also in terms of its function. And so the more you keep asking yourself, focusing on connecting the dots, connecting the dots, connecting the dots, this doesn't happen in fucking a 5-minute intervention. This happens because you desire a higher performing lifestyle. And you identify a thought process that is required to be repeated consistently over time in order to spill your coffee on the guy beside you. That's all right. We have inventions for this. That's what happens when you sit at the front of the room. But you guys get my point? This is not something that happens just as an accident. You don't accidentally fucking win, the World Cup. You don't fucking accidentally, paint an incredible painting. It happens as a result of mastery. And mastery is that ability for you guys to develop a level of consciousness around the behaviors that you need to demonstrate. But what are the important things that I need to be aware of that will help me change those behaviors? And one of the most important things that you can do is start stacking your neurons in the right direction. Okay? Start stacking the neurons. Looking at the thing that you want. Okay? Looking at that you're not demonstrating the behaviors that would suggest that you really genuinely value it. Look at the thing that you're looking at. Go, okay, I want that, but I'm not showing that. What do I show? Where do I show up? Okay? Look at where you do show up, and look for the thing where you show up the most. And then go, right, how do I create a relationship between these two things? How do I create a relationship between the thing that I want to do really badly, lose weight, okay, and the thing that I genuinely love, which is work? How do I connect the two and marry them and create a communion where they live happily ever after? Does this make sense? That is the key to unlocking performance at the highest level. Making what you do fucking light you up. Because ultimately that's what we're talking about, right? How do we do the things that light us up the most? We connect the dots. And the dots just happen to be your neurons. And the things that might prevent you from doing that are things like fear. Okay, you will have fear that will come up. Well, what if I start thinking differently? Well, what if people start treating me differently? You know, oh, what if? Does anyone ever have that shit kind of going on in their head? Who's got a little voice in their head? Just out of curiosity. Okay, just looking for people who aren't putting their hands up. Because normally people sitting going, I don't have a voice in my head. All right, normally works better than that, but... See, and by the way, that's one of the things that you need to become most conscious of, is that little voice in your head. Because it's the little voice in their head that stacks the dots, connects the dots and stacks the digits, right? Stacks the ones. You're a binary organism. You are the most beautiful expression of intelligence that the world has ever seen. And you have this incredible ability to be able to govern everything you see and determine and perceive exactly what you want it to mean. But the reality is you are allowing, in most cases, things to show up in your world with a predefined value, with a predefined meaning that was given to you in some cases by someone else, in some cases by an authority figure, a mum, a dad. It's irrelevant. See, once you start developing a high level of consciousness, you start to realize that you can wake up every single day and create the world in the way that you want it. The world will bend to your will if you know what connects you with your world. Guess what connects you with your world? You. But your values are part of that. Know thyself. The more you know about you, the more you understand your behaviors and the values associated with it, the easier it is for you to govern them. Okay, because ultimately that's what life expression is all about, is how do I govern my behaviors in a way where I do more of the things that I want to do that give me the better life that I want versus some of the more destructive things that I can do that detract and take away from the life that I'm trying to live. Who understands that equation, right? We live in this balance, okay, of just trying to, how do we do more good, whatever that looks like as a value for you, versus how do we avoid more bad, which whatever looks like as something as a negative subtraction for you that takes away from you. And your goal is like, how do I sit in the middle and play with everything that's going on and produce the result that I want? And the first step is consciousness. When it comes to fear, you've got to understand you're human, but you were born with two fears. You were born with the fear of falling and loud noises. I want to let that fucking sit for a second. Some of you are scared to come and talk to me. Some of you are scared to talk to Marie. Some of you are scared to talk to your fucking neighbor. So you've got to ask yourself the question, when fear shows up for me in different behaviors, where the fuck did it come from? If I'm only born with the fear of falling, and if I'm only born with the fear of loud noises, where has all this other shit come from? Has anyone ever thought about that? Think about it now. Let it sit for a second. Every single insecurity you have, not yours. Because your insecurities and your fears are intrinsically linked, borrowed. In most cases, they were given to you because you became conscious of a certain set of behaviors that were demonstrated to you by your world and how it showed up. And as a result, you, what were we on?
Borrowed fears.
Sorry?
Borrowed fears.
Borrowed fears. Before you know it, their fears become yours. So how do we deal with fears? Pardon? Well, it depends on the level of fear, right? Is it phobic fear, where I go into complete shutdown? Or is it just a level of fear that produces a level of discomfort and a level of anxiety? Because we've got to understand that's a spectrum. Because up here you've got crippling, debilitating, can't move, I'm shaking, I'm going to actual physical shock, can induce PTSD shit. And down here you've just got someone who goes, I'm scared of spiders. Do you know my point? So fear is a spectrum, okay? But what we need in order to govern the spectrum is what? We need to know what? If we're going to deal with the fear, what do we need to understand about the fear? No, we don't necessarily need to know where it comes from. I don't fucking care who gave it to you. Honestly, I don't care. Like, I've got so much baggage that's been given to me, I don't know who fucking gave it to me. You know, so it could have been an ancestor for all I know. That's how this shit works, right?
But what is it? What is the fear?
What is the fear? We need to have a level of awareness. We need to be conscious of our triggers. Because it's when we become conscious of our triggers that we know what to prepare for. Does this make sense? And that's where tools like learning how to regulate are the perfect tool set to be able to use in situations where you go, I know right now I'm walking into a trigger. I'm walking into a meeting and I have to talk. Okay, I'm walking into a conversation and I need to speak up and share my voice. I know I'm going into that situation. So rather than just sit there and get into a twisted knot of emotions and unhealthy psychological loops, let's look at what tool would be really helpful that would help stabilize what's going on internally for you so that you can actually show up and do what is it you need to do. Because who here is sometimes, I'm going to use the word carefully here, borderline crippled by some of the fears that you experience when executing certain aspects of your role? Hands up nice and high, nice and high. Beautiful. So first of all, what does fear give us? What does fear produce? What's the result of fear? What does fear trigger in most cases? Hesitation, emotion, fight or flight. Anxiety is a huge one. But fundamentally, cortisol. Fear is a stressor. Okay, it just happens to be a very strong psychological trigger for a stressor. You know, and in most cases we don't realise how powerful they are until they overcome us. So what we need to understand, not only is fear a trigger, cortisol, thank you. I need one of these at all. I actually have one of all these at my events, normally Tracy. What we've got to understand is when we go into fear, okay, and cortisol is released. We have a trigger for stress, cortisol is released to the body. And as cortisol levels elevate in the body, you lose half of your IQ within 7 minutes. And so you have a genuine fear around fear, meaning I don't want to be afraid going into this situation because I know if I am afraid going into this situation, I'm not going to be able to perform at my highest level. So then we become afraid of the fear. First of all, we're afraid of the meeting, but now we're afraid of the fear. Who knows about, who's familiar with this cycle, right? Cortisol rises, intelligence lowers, okay? You get brain fog, you start not being able to cognition things, your cognition starts to fall dramatically. Who's experienced that, just out of curiosity? Okay, awesome. So what we've got to understand, if fears trigger stress, what we really need to do is we need to know how to manage stress, okay? Because if we know what our triggers are, if we know how the triggers show up, we can navigate intentionally, but sometimes we can't. Sometimes that trigger will just appear without any forewarning whatsoever. But as long as we've got the tools to deal with what that fear produces, then we're sweet. And that's where regulation comes in. And to me, regulation, honestly, if there's one gift that I have been given, I was given the desire to work out how to deal with debilitating anxiety. I used to have the worst anxiety. It still shows up every now and then. But I used to have like literally debilitating, crippling anxiety. The kind of stuff that, you know, liquefies your bowel. It was just intense. Like it was intense. And so for me, I always thought there was something wrong with me. I don't know if anyone can relate to this. I always thought, fuck, I wonder if does everyone else feel this way? Because everyone looks really fucking calm in here, and like I'm in knots. But has everyone ever had that experience? It's like fuck. And so for me, it was like I feel blessed I was given the challenge because it made me pursue the cure. Does this make sense? And although it's not a cure in the sense that it'll take it away completely forever, what I do know, it cures it with an incredible level of efficiency almost every time and every moment we use it. And so when we talk about regulation, regulation is a few-step process. And you guys have seen this before, and I don't care if you, by the way, we show this to our K2s every quarter, sometimes more. And the reason we do is this is the type of information you need to be exposed to on a very regular basis, because it's like once you know, then you tune. Does this make sense? You never know. You learn and then you tune it up. You tune it up. You tune it up. Who understands what I'm talking about, right? So this is a tune-up for some of you. For some of you, this might be a little bit new. Regardless, this is how we regulate. Step one, we need to be aware. There needs to be a level of awareness. And what do we need to be aware of? Well, we need to be aware, first of all, that there's either a trigger or we're triggered. Now, is that easier said than done? I'm not fucking stressed. Has anyone ever... I know you guys don't talk that way. Sorry for making you shit your pants. But it's kind of funny how sometimes we're not aware of the emotions that we're feeling because we're so intoxicated by them. Does that make sense? And so that's where a level of consciousness is so important, about being aware that when we are actually triggered, because sometimes we're so familiar with our triggered state that we don't know when we're actually not triggered, because for some people it becomes their way of life. Some people operate out of a frame of stress and emotional anxiety. That's just how because they've been there for so long, that becomes normal. You know, they go away for 2 days and they start to calm down. They go, oh, it's terrible, I had nothing to do. You get my point? So what we've got to understand is we need to have a level of awareness around when we are triggered to go, shit, I'm actually in stress right now. And if I'm in denial, my denial isn't like, who here has ever had a friend before that got really, really, really drunk? And you say to your friend, you're really, really, really drunk? And they go, I'm not fucking drunk. Has anyone ever had that experience before, right? Who had it like recently? Keep your hand up if you were the... No, I'm just kidding. Oftentimes, because you've got to understand, stress is incredibly intoxicating, and it actually has many addictive aspects, like physiological and neurological addictive aspects at a chemical level. Like, stress is addictive. Like, it's like a drug, okay, as are emotions. And so some people have become so addicted to their stresses that they constantly view the world through a perspective that gives them permission to feel stressed all the time. And so as a result, they feel justified in their stress, but they never actually get to see the world as it really exists. Because when you see the world, who would agree, when you look at the world absent of all the worries and stresses and concerns, the world's a pretty fucking spectacularly beautiful place. Would you agree? And that's a choice. It's a perspective, right? And our perspective is governed by our psychology, and oftentimes our psychology is governed by the things that are important to us. And the more we understand this, the more we can actually modify it. So there's got to be a level of awareness that we're triggered, right? Got to be conscious. And also, who wants 2.0? Like, who wants the fucking really hot shit, okay? If you really want to master this shit, like the 2.0 is start developing presence. And when I say developing presence, the reason I say presence, and it's just another form of a momentary awareness, okay, is because you start becoming tuned in to what does 100% fucking neutral feel like? What does my body feel like when it's totally absent of stress, totally absent of emotion, totally absent of any neurological substance that could be manufactured in my body that could shift my perspective in any way? All I have to deal with is psychology. Because what we're trying to understand here, you're dealing with psychology and neurological and neurochemistry at the same time. And the more you can remove and understand and shape those things, the better you can see the world and the more you can actually take control in shaping it. Who understood what I just fucking said? I love you guys. We're all nerds coming together, right? All right. Because presence gives you that ability to have a baseline of what stress isn't. You know, I actually went as far as, I don't know if you guys know this story, but when I first discovered this piece of software that could detect coherence, which is the connection between the heart and the brain, and also detects stress, essentially. And then when you have heart-brain connection, it's when you have the maximum flow of information to be able to make really solid intuitive decisions. And so when I found this software, I literally wore it every day for like 7 months. And at the time, it was a laptop-based piece of software. So I literally walked around like if I was doing meeting, not like in fucking public, but but I was working at home at the time, because for that whole period of time, I wanted to know where my baseline was, but I wanted to know what were the things that triggered me. And I became acutely aware of not only what were the things that triggered me, but I started to know the difference between, fuck, I'm totally coherent now. Like, what does that feel like? What does that feel like? Just sense it. And so then all of a sudden I started chasing neutrality, and I developed this level of presence that has just been incredible. That's the 2.0 shit. You start developing a baseline for consciousness on a moment-to-moment basis, becoming more mindful. Number 2, you got to breathe. Okay, I now am conscious of the fact that I'm stressed. Okay, you got to breathe. The fastest way to, because when you're in stress, okay, cortisol is released, adrenaline is released, fight or flight is activated. That's a part of what's called your fucking autonomic nervous system. And when your autonomic nervous system is activated, it creates very, very strong compulsions for autonomous behavior, which is like basically survival-based instincts. So what we need to do is we need to reset the autonomous network as fast as fucking possible. Because without resetting the electrical system, it's going to just keep misfiring. Does this make sense? And the way that we do that is by breathing. Because most of the time when people are stressed, what's the first thing that is impacted? Breath. You need to be able to breathe. And so when you're stressed, visceral sac, you have this sac that basically contains all your major organs. It crunches down, it squeezes down on top of all your lungs and all your internal organs, and it just pushes the blood out to the extremities so that you can fucking fight if you need to, or you can run and get the fuck out of there. Who understands this, right? And so what we do is we actually have to force that visceral sac open by nice big deep breath, right? Into the belly, nice and deep. In for 6, hold for 6, then out for 6. You do that like 6 times and literally your autonomic nervous system is reset. Okay, and not only is your autonomic nervous system reset, your immune system just gets a nice little jolt, okay, of white blood cells. It is potent and powerful. So now you reset, but you're still doing the thing that scares the shit out of you. And this is where most people go wrong, because it's like, fucking, if I cure your phobia of sharks in that moment, great. But what if the shark comes back? Does this make sense? So, or what if the shark, I close my eyes, I'm not scared of the shark, I'm not scared of the shark, I'm not scared of the shark, I'm not scared. The fucking shark's still there! You know what I'm saying? This can't just be mental masturbation. We can't just be going, oh, I feel good now, everything's all right. No, we've actually got a little bit more work to do. So the third thing that we actually need to do is we actually need to manage, or more importantly, modify the meaning that we're interpreting in that situation. We've got to interpret, we've actually got to manage, what am I defining that this experience means? And if you're defining it as something in a negative context, okay, or something that has a value with something associated with a very negative context, that's going to trigger stress for you. What our goal is here is to manage the meaning so we can start look at producing something new. Because I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to go high level just for a quick second. Our goal here is also, we don't just want to manage our awareness. We don't just want to, because by the way, when you do the breath, that manages that manages your biochemistry, okay? When we manage our meaning, we're managing our psychology. So we've got biochemistry and psychology. They're the two things that we've got to manage here. If we don't manage both of them, one of them is going to override the other. Does this make sense? Let me explain that again. If we don't reset the autonomic nervous system, okay, it's going to continue to fire no matter what happens to the meaning, because it's already fired. So when someone's in a fight or flight state, it takes time to relax. So what we need to do here is we also need to manage the psychology in the moment, which what does this experience mean? And we do that by asking these questions. What is the benefit of this? What is the benefit of this? What skills, knowledge, and experience am I gaining as a result of this? And how is this going to make me better, stronger, faster, and more effective tomorrow than I was today? And at first your brain is, again, I'm doing value stacking, and at first your brain's going to want to go, well, nothing's fucking good about it, that's why I'm stressed. So no, there's a benefit here. You've just got to find it. And then you become a miner. And your goal when you're dealing with fears and learning how to regulate is learning how to mine for meaning. You've got to keep throwing the pick in the ground, pulling it back, uncover a new meaning. Throw the pick in the ground again, pull it back, uncover a new meaning. What's the benefit of that? There's one. What's the benefit of that? Oh, there's another one. It's not going to necessarily be easy work. That's why 80% of the population aren't fucking high performers, because they're not willing to do this kind of work. Does this make sense? And by the way, you don't have to be a and when I say a high performer, you can be a high performer as a parent, okay? You can be a high performer as a fucking pastor. You can be a high performer as a school teacher. But it's just knowing how to perform at the high level because you know enough about yourself in order to manage your expression of your potential in a way that lands with the greatest level of material benefit to everyone you're trying to impact. Does that make sense? Again, some of you are like, fuck, went a bit deep. So we want to manage the meaning, right? Now there's another aspect to this apart from our psychology. We're also wanting to remanage our biology, because when we start seeing benefits to things, what do you think starts to happen for the thing that triggered that fear, for the thing that triggered that stress? If you uncover enough benefits of that thing that has been making you afraid or that thing that's been triggering stress, what do you think at some point starts to shift? You start to shift into what's going, who saw the K-Day, what K-Day was it? Oh, actually, did we show this whole thing? I don't think we did show the whole thing. 103, right? Did we show that whole process where I unpacked?
Yeah.
Okay, so 103, if you haven't seen K-Day 103, have a look at K-Day 103, where one of our clients basically stood up and said, I have debilitating anxiety, it's ruining my life, it's crippling me, and I hate it, I just want it out of my life. And I basically spent 15 minutes going through how has anxiety shaped you, what has been the benefit of that, what has it given you, what skills, and we ended up with this massive list, and at the end of it, I was like, so what you're telling me, you would be willing to get rid of your anxiety and all of the benefits that came with it, just to be able to get rid of your anxiety. He goes, fuck no, I would never get rid of my anxiety for anything. Because he saw so much benefit in it now. Does this make sense? That we stacked values to a point where the very thing that he despised, he realized was the very thing that shaped him into the man he was today. Now, I'm not saying anxiety is a bad thing, but I'm also not saying it's a good thing. It's both. It has the ability to shape you when you have a level of awareness of how to use it as an indicator to what you need to work on. Who understands what I'm talking about? Okay? So, we want to manage our biology because we want to get to that point of gratitude, because once we slip into gratitude, our natural levels of DHEA actually start to rise. And when your natural levels of DHEA start to rise, guess what happens to your cortisone levels? What does DHEA do to cortisol? It suppresses cortisol. So by managing your perspective and managing the meaning of the event, by choosing, because you're choosing, here's the thing that you need to understand. If you're fucking stressed, that's your choice. No one made you stressed. No one said it's your job to be stressed. You chose a perspective. That's your fucking responsibility, no one else's. That you deem to be a trigger and it caused stress. Now imagine a world where nothing fucking stressed you. Who likes the idea of that? And let go. Just let go. The less rules you have, the less chance you have of being offended. Does that make sense? Is there someone behind me? A couple of you going like this, I'm like, what the fuck? DHEA up, cortisol down. Cortisol, actually, it sharpens your neurological function. It protects your neurons. Okay, gets them firing faster, increases growth hormone. There's just so many fucking benefits. But now what we need to do is we need to move. Like, take some form of action. Oh, who wants the fucking magic? Like the fucking pure alchemy. Here's how it fucking goes down. This is how you're gonna fucking create. This is how you express potential at the highest level. Like, who wants the good shit? Okay. This is the shit I only give to my best clients. No, for real. Like, what I'm about to give you, and again, you may not even understand because we may not have the time for me to deliver the context that's required. But what I want you to grasp is this entire world is made up of energy. Everything is made up of energy. And matter has a higher concentration of energy. Let's just call it that, right? It vibrates at a lower rate of frequency. Every piece of material in your existence right now happened as a result of enough intention going in a particular direction, and it created form, either at a highly divine conscious level or at an individual level where you're actually playing out right now. All the energy that comes through you, if you have energy constantly moving through you, and you are constantly directing it towards the things that you think about, and the things that you think about are constantly reshaping the material environment that you exist in. I'll go into it super quickly, but just to give you as clear an insight as I can into the concept we're talking about here. At a quantum mechanical level, everything is constantly changing form based on the environment that is looking at it, the intention of that environment, and how those probabilities are affected. So we live in a sea of energetic soup that is nothing more than potential that responds materially to a level of focus and intention towards particular thoughts and behaviors. Your entire existence right now is being formed as a result of an enormous volume of energy coming through you, and it's shaping an existence that you're cohabitating in right now. Who understood that? Excellent. Who's like, fuck me? I didn't ask for the red pill. Are you guys enjoying this?
Yes.
Okay, because this is the pure. This is the pure. This is like, if you can get this, life's going to get a fucking lot easier for you. This is the pure. So once you understand your role in that, you start realizing that you're the conduit of information, you're the conduit of energy, and you can literally choose in any moment where that energy gets directed towards. And that comes down to having a level of consciousness about the things that are important to you, and where you, if performance at the very highest level, if creation at the very highest level is important to you, you will start to understand the correlation between how you think in every moment and how your environment manifests in front of you in every single second. Your environment is nothing more than an expression. It's an expression of potential that you were given, okay? And you're expressing it, but you're choosing to focus on aspects of that expression that you're choosing to focus on. And if there's some aspect of your expression potential right now that you're not happy with, guess whose fault that is? It's yours, because you're the one expressing. No one can express for you. You're the one expressing energy. You're creating form. This is your world. You are constantly manifesting a matrix around you. The question is are you aware of that? And are you aware of your responsibility in terms of the connection between you and your conscious self, the probability of multiple realities eventuating around you, and what influence do I actually have on that? Does this make sense? Because you are a God force of energy. And wherever you direct your intent at a quantum mechanical level, it sets shit in motion. It creates electrical thunderstorms, quantum mechanical thunderstorms of energy that shift around like probability, looking to take form in some form of a material expression. Your role in that is how you direct your intelligence will determine what shows up in your world. Where you look, where you focus, and the script that you overlay on top of that will determine everything. And when you start taking responsibility for that, no one can fuck with your shit, ever. No one will ever be able to fuck with your shit. You see, and that's what we've got to understand. Life at the end of the day is about what? Well, it's living, but when you look at the happiness study and they look at, okay, what is it that people ultimately want more than anything else? What is it they want? They want to be fucking happy. And do you know how you stay happiest? By creating an environment within your mind that no one can fuck with, that nobody can fuck with, you know? And that's tough, because there will always be values associated with certain things that have the potential to fuck with your mind. And what our goal is to work through bit by bit and slowly remove as many triggers as possible, slowly work on as many triggers as possible, slowly work on ourselves and our wounds and heal ourselves as much as possible till we can get to the point where we're almost trigger free, versus being triggered at every fucking opportunity, because that's just how I operate. It's just not a way to live. Consciousness is your key here, because the more you can learn how to regulate, the less effect you have of stress and influence you have of stress, the more clarity you're going to have as well. These are the tools that we use to support that. This is how you perform at a high level. And if I can say one thing around information flow, I'll say a few things about information flow. Because what did I just... Who got enormous value from the last 40 minutes, right? What did I just do? What did I just do? I just allowed... you guys just had information flow your way, right? Information that I know, if used and deployed upon, will make you much better as a human being. But now, guess what? Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to take the information and go, well, shit. I have people all the time to go, oh, Kerwin, I've got anxiety. I've got this mate who's been telling me for 10 years he's got anxiety. He goes, oh, fuck, hey, man, I've got anxiety. Still really bad. I don't know what to do. I said, you do know what to do. He goes, no, I don't. I said, mate, we've had this conversation like fucking 50 times. You need to fucking meditate, bro. And he's like, oh, no, I tried meditation, doesn't work. I said, that's not how it works, mate. It's a practice. It's a discipline. Most people go to the gym and start lifting, oh, it fucking hurts. This is bad for me. And they walk away. No, mate. The whole point is to keep going. Had the same realization at Uluru when we're talking about his anxiety, and we got to the root of it. We said, why are you living with something that you have the tools to fix? Clearly there's a benefit in it for you. Does this make sense? Everything you're doing right now, there's a value associated with a benefit. This depends on, are you conscious of what that connection is, and is it one that is making you better, or is it one that's holding you back? Information flow is critical. In order for me to do what I do at the highest level, we need information flowing through the organization. Okay? We need people having conversations on a regular basis. We need people sharing what's going on for themselves, okay? And also for other people around them. Because if I don't know, if Marie doesn't know, if your leader, manager doesn't know, we can't help you. And I want you to know, I want to help every single one of you, but the only way I can is if I know what's actually going on. Okay? And what that means is if there's stuff going on, and I'm talking a full spectrum of information. This is life. Okay? I'm not saying leave everything at the fucking door. There's shit going on with a customer, there's shit going on with a process, there's shit going on with technology. Okay? Flow that information to someone who can make a difference with it. And if that person doesn't make a difference with it, then flow it to me. Okay? I'm never fucking too busy ever for information to flow in my door. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. If you need me, you fucking got me. I mean that. I am here for you. This doesn't exist at the highest level without you. Does this make sense? You're a part of this creation. This whole expression that we're talking about, the whole magic that we just talked about, you're part of it. You are a part of it. And I can't do it without you. And I'd much rather do it with you than fucking someone else, because I don't know somebody else. Do you get my point? Sure, I can hire another person, okay? But I like you guys, and I love what you're doing, and I want you to just do what you do at the highest level, but have fucking fun doing it. Does this make sense? Have fun. I know I have you for most of your life, and I don't want to feel guilty about that. And the way that I don't feel guilty about that is by providing an environment that supports you to just fucking show up and do what you love. Okay, every single one of you that was interviewed by me, I assessed you based on my belief around how much you would love doing what you do. You were employed because I believe you would love what you're doing here. Not doing it for just a job, but I believe that you would love what you're doing here. Every single one of you. Okay, I ask a series of questions very strategically to identify what are the things that are important to you, what are the things that you do those marry up, are our values aligned? Do I assess you as a high performer, see you as a high performer or mass potential high performer? Yes, that's why you got fucking hired. I see something in every single one of you. I see probably in some of you more than you see in yourself. So please allow me to get that potential out of you if that's what you want, okay? Because sometimes potential and expressing potential and leveling up, it's a little bit uncomfortable. I get it. I get it. But what I want you to know is you're in a safe environment to be able to do that. But just trust. Like if shit's going down, sometimes you just got to trust and go, okay, there might be things showing up. I'm not necessarily getting information flowing to me that should, but you know what? I fucking trust Kerwin enough to know that when he needs to tell me, he will. Because sometimes that's how it's got to roll. Does this make sense? I've got 38 people that I have to conduit information for. Please, please, please be flexible with me. It's a lot of flow of information to be a hub for, okay? And I appreciate what you guys do more than you'll ever know, but it's a two-way street. I need you to work with me. Does this make sense? Flow information's in both ways. And it's not just to me, by the way, it's also to internally. If anything, that it's more weighted universally. How do we make sure that information flows? Not through a filter, in some cases, of triggers, in a way that is going to be most efficient and effective. Now, I'm not going to assume anyone is ever going to be able to communicate absence of an emotion, because sometimes shit gets real here. But what I am saying is when that shit does go down, you've got the tools. You've got the tools to be able to manage it. Oh, I forgot to make the fucking connection, didn't I? When I was talking about this energy, right? This energy that you have that is coming through you, right? When you experience stress, this is this is big. This is really fucking big. When you experience a stress coming through you, it peaks your biophotonic output. It's like a burst of turbo, energy-wise, right? And so when you have experiencing a stress, and you've got a stress that is transitioning through your body, okay, it's come from a perspective, a perception. You've built up this enormous level of energy and stress and charge, anger, emotion, whatever it is. You're now regulating it. Guess where that energy is going? Anybody? It's going out. You're shedding, the energy is going out into the environment, and it is supporting bioenergetically creation. So when we are managing our emotions, when I say move and I'm talking about action, take that energy and to direct it towards something you're trying to create. You know, it might be something that you're working on in your department, it might be something you're working on in your role, it might be something you're working on in your personal life. What I'm saying is that energy that builds up when you're stressed is a form of currency that you can use to buy shit, okay, if you direct it consciously towards its attainment in some form of a physical action that demonstrates between the quantum world and the Newtonian world, that is a genuine value, which affects probability of creation. And if you guys get your head around that, you just got the fucking keys to the kingdom. Which is basically, how do I turn my triggers into high performance? Drop the mic. Look, honestly, it's with my entire heart. I believe what we do is incredible. Like, honestly, it is. We all have a gift, and yeah, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to express it in the way that I do. And hopefully, did you guys get value from this? Yeah. Should we do it more? Yeah. Honestly, I think we should. I think we should, bring up the top shelf a little bit more often, if I'm honest. But guys, thank you so much. We got a big couple of days planning that's about to go down. Are we behind time?
5 minutes.
Oh. Awesome, fantastic guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, have a fucking good day.